Hello again, everyone, and I've got Lily Seto here with me. Lily's joining me from Canada. I met Lily a couple of years ago in Florida, and we met again earlier this year in Dublin. Lily, welcome.
Thanks, Mariana. I'm excited to be here.
Lily's going to talk to us today about her metaphor magic box. I've got one here. This caused great excitement because I met her with my family, and Lily very kindly gave me a box and then posted one over to my husband and daughter because they were both so blown away by it. And there's been a lot of rummaging and playing around with it, and experimentation since. So thank you again, Lily.
My pleasure. How cool is that? Excitement.
Super cool.
Excitement in Donegal.
Okay. Lily, I wanted to ask you first of all, I've used similar things before, but I particularly like the way that you've set up your box. So what was the need that you identified with it?
Well, I learned about the magic box in my supervision training, and it really struck me as, wow, that's really powerful, because it accesses parts of our brain that we don't even know are there, and everybody has a unique way of looking at one item. So I call it like symbolic metaphors, and everybody makes their own meaning. And so when I learned about it, I thought, wow, okay, I think I can adapt this. So I played around with it, used it in supervision, and then as people got to know it, they said, well, can we use it in coaching? And I thought, why not? So, and I used to carry items around in a big box, about this big. And it wasn't practical from a travel perspective. And I used to make jewelry, or I still do, and I thought, oh, why don't I try these little charms? And it works like a charm, so to speak. So they're quite portable. They're like this, and so I have one in my purse all the time. And the men that I train, they put it in their backpack or even in their back pocket, and they carry it around. One of my guys jokingly said, oh, I'm going to charm school today. So it's there's a lot of metaphoric play on it as well.
Yeah, no, I like the portability of it. I like the fact that it looks professional. I used to carry a box of stuff, and it looked a bit over homemade and clunky. So yeah, the portability of it, and but the variety of symbols here as well. Could you perhaps take us a step back and tell us why you think the use of kind of working with metaphors is so powerful?
Well, there's some neuroscience behind it.
Oh yeah.
We
rock
right?
on, come on.
Yeah. That's a sexy word these days in coaching.
Yeah, I will forget it immediately, but be going kind of, I know there's something important here.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. Sometimes I will show an owl to a group of people that I'm training and say, write down everything that comes to your mind about what you see. And I don't put a name on it or anything. Some people will actually say, oh, it's an owl and this is what I wrote. And others will say, oh, that represents wisdom to me. So I won't use owl with that client. I will use, okay, tell me about wisdom. So we're really relating to how the client interprets it. And some people will say, oh, wise and beautiful and nocturnal. And I've had one person that just had this visceral reaction, and she didn't know why. And as she started to unpack, she realized she had had an experience in the past where an owl had actually swooped down on her and almost attacked her. And so she had a negative impression of owls. And so when we pick these items to represent our clients or people or things in the story that we're telling in coaching or our scenario, we're subconsciously finding something that relates to what we're talking about. And then as we unpack, we realize, oh, I really don't like this client. It feels like she's swooping down on me, right? Like coming at me. So that's kind of the power of using metaphors. We never know what's going to come up too. Every time it's different.
So they're kind of symbols in that they wrap up a lot of information in one small package. And I've got an owl here, so it's in my box. They also, I suppose, prompt memories as well that can be associated. And as coaches, we are asked to question around clients' use of language. So I guess that allows us to probe deeper with them.
Yes, why, the kind of language are they using, and even looking at how we place the items on the mat, it often will have meaning. So there's some what do we call it, constellation work in there. There's some sand play in there. There's different places. I'll use somatics, like what are you feeling as you look at that item? Or if you would please stand up if you'd like and look at it from a different perspective. Yeah, so you can, it's really I guess a conglomeration of all our different skills and our knowledge and our learnings that we can bring into the box as well, and use it any way you like. I've started to use it in team coaching. I've used it with leaders. I've used it with counselors. Some counselors have been trained in it, so when a high school student that doesn't say more than they can draw something out of them, because it feels less intimidating. You're not talking about you, you're talking about this thing in front of you. So attach more meaning to it. There's another neuroscience piece to it as well, right? It feels safer that way, but really it's our stuff we're projecting onto this item.
Yeah, it's the other thing that you were talking about, high school students, it's that the element of play as well that kind of can lift the tension in a room sometimes with people. If you bring something like this out, it feels more like it's less intense, because the focus is directed onto these other things, these other items. It's not kind of so not confrontational is not quite the right word, but it's not so you're not so in focus. The items are the focus somehow.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
Step apart.
Yeah, people sometimes, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I used it with my daughter, because you sent her a box. She's quite little, but even things like, if things have upset her at school, she can set things out and then think about how she would like things to be and what it would take to shift things into the different scenario she's more comfortable with. So it's an easy to grasp thing to use.
Yeah, it's a great way to use it with children as well, because they love it feels like it is very much play. So sometimes when I'm feeling a coaching session is really intense and we're stuck, I might say, would you like to try something different? And when I bring them out, they kind of look at it skeptically. But once we've done it, it's like, oh, that's fun. And now some of my clients will go, can we use the magic box today? It's like, absolutely.
It's funny because I think I told you this story before. I used to share a house years ago in London with, he's quite a well-respected guy in the AIDS medicine community now, but he's just a hilarious guy. He came in one day going, oh my goodness me, we had the greatest like of hokum, this training thing is hokum, and it was all about constellations. And it really stuck with me because I find it really powerful. And he would find it really powerful, but I think the way it was set up, so he had kind of thought it was just hokum and kind of not quite right for what he wanted. How do you frame the use of it so that it does reach, say, the more linear thinkers amongst us? How we've talked about play and making it kind of accessible, but how do you get over those kind of barriers? Or do you think you need to? You might not need to.
That's a great question. Coaches ask me that often in our training session, and I think it's our stuff that we're projecting on them, because this has been used in corporate boardrooms with very formal accountants and people that we think might be quite linear, but it really allows them to access another part of their brain. And so I don't think I'm just thinking here, I don't think I've ever been in a situation that it hasn't worked. I always invite the client, do you want to try something new? And once they say yes, that's the invitation to bring it out. And then if they choose not, like once I brought it out because they asked me for it, they knew about it and said, I want to try this magic box you've been talking about. I said, okay. So I bring it out, and she never looked at it once. She kept on with the coaching piece. I went, okay, that's fine too. And then another time, someone will pick up one item and just focus on that one item because something about it resonates. And that's okay too. However people want to use it. One of my lightly held principles with this is, the client is in charge of creating their metaphoric landscape. They're always in the right about it. The less we do, the more they do, the more powerful it is. Like, they really need to own the experience. And so I'm always surprised at how people will use it and what comes out of it. Always surprised, pleasantly surprised. Yeah.
I think that's why we love this work.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
I think you said something very interesting there, Lily, that in passing, you know, it's been used in X, Y, and Z boardrooms and wherever, and it accesses a different part of the brain. And sometimes just using those kind of phrases when you're introducing something to people, it makes them think, oh, well, that's okay then. You know, they kind
I
of see
think,
the purpose. I think if we drop stuff on them without just giving them a setup, then sometimes it can feel a bit alien. But actually just saying, you know,
yeah.
people find value from it. It allows you, it's a simple way of accessing different parts of your brain, and it's been tried and tested in all sorts of different environments. I think that's a
Yeah,
handy
that's a
introduction.
nice way of. I don't think I've ever done it. I kind of like jokingly say, "Oh, come on, let's have a play." Right? So I have a little playful piece to it, but yeah, I think that would work too if I was working with this. I don't know. I don't know when I would use that, but I would certainly have it in the back of my pocket for sure. Yeah.
um, just to kind of recap a step again, you mentioned the mat. I'll show people what comes in the kit. So Lily's kit, there's a little handy tin, there's a mat for you to use to put the pieces on, there's a big selection of different pieces. And Lily, you were saying in the workshop I did with you that you kind of select things. Well, perhaps you describe how things end up in each person's box.
Yeah, so there's probably about 23 to 25 items, and every box is different purposefully because I think, like, I believe in energy fields and that the box is attracted to the person it's meant to go to. And I've seen that over and over again where people go, oh, that's exactly what I needed. So, yeah, so randomly goes out to a person and they make meaning out of that box. And I would suggest not more than 25 items in a box because then it really it confuses the client. They're more about, oh, look at all the choice versus, oh, which one kind of draws me. And often I'll hear a client say, I'm going to pick this one, but I don't know why, but let's go with it. And that's the best way because that's
Yeah.
their unconscious talking. Yeah.
Thank you. Lily, I'm going to, just so that you know, I'm going to drop in the details about your workshops or how people can contact you if people have questions in the thread underneath this video. But is there anything else that you wanted to tell us about while we're here?
No, I'm just really, I encourage people to play with metaphors and see what happens because they're a really powerful way of working with our clients.
Thank you.
My pleasure.